Hello! Hi, everyone! It's been a week. We're back at our usual time. Hello, welcome in, welcome in. It's so nice to see you all. I hope you all have been well. Sorry for the longer than usual starting soon. I just really wanted to re-listen to some of the Eve soundtrack, and also I just thought it appropriate. um, so, you know what we gotta do next? We're going into the book talking screen. So, I have something to admit to you guys. I've only been able to read one book this entire week. I'm a disappointment to myself. So, I've been incredibly backed up with schoolwork and finals and just a bunch of course work in general because, like, I'm getting to the end of my quarter and then we're gonna transition into the next one. So I've just been backed up completely and haven't had time or motivation to read. So I have only finished one book. But to make up for me talking about one book, I'm gonna pull out the rest of the books that I want to read and talk to you about them. I'm not gonna go in depth about them because there are 11 or so. But I'm gonna just give a brief synopsis and explain why I picked out the book. But let me go get the one. Let me talk about the book I finished first, and then we'll go into that. So, let me grab it out here. Alright, so I originally was reading Hunting by the Stars when last I talked to you, I believe. But I set that aside because my motivation to finish it was low. Not because I wasn't enjoying the content of it, but because of my own brain. I sabotaged myself and went, oh, I gotta read something else. So I instead swapped it out for Blanca and Roja by Anna Marie McLemore. And arguably this book was a little bit longer than that one, but I digress. I just needed something else, and I love Anna Marie McLemore's books. Their writing always is so incredibly beautiful, and this one was no exception. It's about two sisters, Blanca and Roja, who are destined, one of them are destined to turn into a swan because of a family curse that was put on them like generations ago. It's not really clear where what reason that they have to give up one of the daughters to the swans, but in their family lore, I'm gonna call it, it's said that one of the family members, like, I think it's like a great-great-grandmother or something, wanted daughters because she kept having sons, and so she made a deal with swans that would allow her to have a daughter, and instead she had two, but because she had made the deal with the swans, she had to give up one of them to them, and it's just been a tradition ever since in the family, and it's just that premise throughout the rest of the book, so we don't know who's gonna turn into the swan. Roja is suspected of being the one that's gonna turn into the swan. We're kind of suspecting it the entire time, but it kind of throws a curveball in the middle of it. This book has 4 different POVs that rotate between Blanca, Roja, a boy named Yearling, who his name I believe is Barclay, and another boy whose name is Paige, I believe. Paige, yeah. And he goes by he, she pronouns, and I think he's also trans, which is the coolest thing ever. This is the one thing I love about Anna Marie McLemore's books. They always include, like, 1 or 2, maybe even more trans characters in this, or, like, some characters that are just not straight. Like, I remember in Wild Beauty, all of the sisters were bisexual and in love with one girl. And in When the Moon Was Ours, one of the main characters was a trans man, and in love with his best friend, who's a girl. I love that about their books, that they just always make an effort to include some character who goes against the binary. I love it. This book at points frustrated me because of the melodrama of it, but it's to be expected. It's a young adult book, but the prose is so beautiful. I wanted to lay down and cry half the time because how beautiful it was. There's just such vivid imagery, and McLemore has the tendency to explain things that is not like directly holding your hand. You kind of have to infer what the fuck is going on, and I appreciate that so incredibly deeply. So this gets a 5 out of 5, as pretty much all of their books have so far. I'm getting there in terms of their, all the books that they've written so far. I think the only one I haven't read, minus the more current books, is The Weight of Feathers. So we'll have to see if I can find that the next time I go to the library. But that was that one that I finished. Let me go see if I can get all the rest of the books, because this, and minus like 2 other books, are the only fictional books that I got for the month. The rest of them are nonfiction. So let me go grab them really quickly. Hold on. I'm gonna exclude one of them because I don't... This one, never mind. Actually, I will include it. Why not? Hold on. That's a fictional book. This one. This is gonna take a second, folks, so just hang in there a moment, will ya? Sorry, that sounded so incredibly rude. Why were these books stuck together? What? Oh, gross. Oh, no. Oh, no. I don't like that. That 2 of my books were just stuck together. They weren't like that before. I don't know why that happened. Oh, jeez, okay. Oh, these books are upside down. No. I can't even read the cover of that one because it blends in so well with the darkness. Okay. Actually, I will include these 2 because they're poetry collections and they're semi-autobiographical, so why not? Why not? Okay. I'm gonna break my back hauling these over here. I've been playing Limbus Company, despite it having a linear story, has D&D campaign vibes. That's cool. I've never heard of that before, but I hope you're having fun. You can hear me struggling. I'm so sorry. Okay. So, as you heard from my struggle, I have a lot of books here. Let me see if I can count them all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 nonfiction books and then 2 poetry collections for 10 in total. I made good on my promise from last month that I was going to pick up more books for Black History Month because I felt bad for having read 3. And I went a little overboard. Only like 3 of the books are about Indigenous people. The rest of them are written by Black authors talking about racism toward Black people, and also some books about Black joy as well. I didn't want just doomer books the entire time. I wanted to read as well books about, success in the Black community. So let's go over them really quickly, shall we? Ooh. I'm setting them on the floor. There's no way in hell I'm keeping them in my lap. So I'm going to start with the poetry collections, which for some reason were stuck together. I have no idea why, and at this point, I don't want to know why. So, these 2 poetry collections were on the Indigenous Woman Authors stand again, and I told you guys last time I cleared it out. I did it again. Because I just love picking up books by Indigenous women authors. They always write the best shit ever. Like Cherie Dimelin with The Marrow Thieves and Hunting by the Stars. And then Rebecca Roanhorse with the one about angels. I feel bad I can't remember the title of it currently, but that one. A Tread of Angels. I think that's what it was called. Alright, so this one is from... What year was this from? 83. It's called She Had Some Horses by Joy Harjo. It's very short. It is so incredibly short. Like, let me... How many pages is this? This is... 72 pages. This is incredibly short, but apparently it's a very, incredibly good poetry collection and is very well known amongst, the indigenous community that she comes from, which I can't pronounce the name of because I don't want to butcher it, but just look up Joy Harjo and I'm sure it will show the tribe that she comes from. But this is... I also really like the cover. It's very beautiful. But I'm very excited to read this. I have no idea what it entails, but I'm sure it discusses her experiences being indigenous, as well as being an indigenous woman on top of that. And it's also a classic. So, we'll see. I have a hard time with classics, so I hope the language isn't too hard for me to understand, because boy howdy do I have a bad history with classics and just accidentally not understanding anything that they tell me. So then I have arguably the funniest title of anything I have ever picked up ever, Bury My Heart at Chuck E. Cheese's by Tiffany Midge, with a foreword by Geary Hobson. Bury My Heart at Chuck E. Cheese's. I almost didn't pick this up, but I knew deep down that I absolutely had to. And of course I read the little blurb and also was like, yeah, I want to read it because of the content within it. So absolutely. It sounds incredible. And I'm just in love with the cover and the title. It sounds interesting and I'm very excited to read this. It's a collection of poems by Tiffany Midge, and it says it's a collection of musings on life, politics, and identity as a Native woman in America. So I'm very excited to read this. I hardly have ever read poetry collections as well, so this is my chance to catch up with poetry. So that'll be fun. Oh, I forgot to turn on my nightlight. Uh-oh. No wonder it's so dark in my room. I was wondering why it was so dark. Okay. Next up, I have... It's covered by the barcode. Lovely. How We Fight White Supremacy by Akiba Solomon and Kenra Rankin. Rankin? My bad. I skimmed it briefly, and I'm very intrigued because it seems like a series of essays that go... that are written by these two people. What are their pronouns? Hold on. Okay, none of their pronouns are listed here, but it just seems like a bunch of essays collected together talking about white supremacy, racism in America, especially racism toward black people, and a bunch of other stuff. I did pick this up solely for the title, but also I did read the blurb. I just entirely forgot what this was about because it's been a week since I picked these books up, so let me reread the blurb really quickly. We are facing unprecedented attacks on our democracy, our dignity, and our hard-won civil rights. If you're black in the U.S., this is not new. As Color Lines editors Akiba Solomon and Kenra Rankin show, black Americans subvert and resist life-threatening forces as a matter of course. Yes, sorry guys, this is hard to read in the dark, sorry. In these pages, Solomon and Rankin bring together leading black voices who offer wisdom on how they fight white supremacy. It's a must-read for people well steeped in resistance work and for the next generation of freedom dreamers. Okay, so that's... I did say it seemed like a collection of essays from people talking about white supremacy and racism, so I was right on that, so I'm looking forward to reading this, nonetheless. I love essay collections, and I love reading about how to dismantle white supremacy, so this is definitely gonna be a really good read. This one is different. It's not in line with all the other books. This one was just a random pick in the nonfiction section, and then I'll go back to the other books that I had picked up. But this one was called Morbid Magic, Death, Spirituality, and Culture from Around the World by Thomas Prower. I picked this up because I was looking for a different book and ended up finding a book about death rituals in different cultures and religions, and I'm very excited to read about all of this. This is the entirety of the book. I'm not kidding. That is exactly, I summed it up with just that one sentence. So I'm gonna put this back. But I am intrigued to read it. Because death rituals have always been an interesting thing that I am want to learn more about. This book I am actually in the process of reading currently. It's called Buses Are A-Comin', Memoir of a Freedom Rider by Charles Person with Richard Rooker. And this book is a memoir from Charles Person about his time as a freedom rider. He was one of the first people to get on the buses and do freedom rides around the U.S. And it actually talks about in the beginning about his bus being set on fire and the doors getting held shut so that nobody could escape, and how he was getting beat to death off to the side of it. And it's really brutal introduction, but I'm intrigued to read more about this. I know of the Freedom Riders, but I want to learn more about the Freedom Riders and the work that they have done. So, and also since this comes from someone who was a Freedom Rider, I just like, oh, this perfect person to read from then. So I'm very excited to continue reading this. I actually didn't get very far in it because I had someplace to go, but I'm excited to pick this back up. This one is actually from a person I have read from before. It's called The Fire This Time, A New Generation Speaks About Race, edited by Jesmyn Ward, and I think this is a groundbreaking anthology on race in America, bringing together the most important voices of a new generation. I think this is a work that was done by James Baldwin and was put together and edited and kind of redone in a way by Jesmyn Ward. I think. I don't entirely know, but I am intrigued to read this further. I have read from Jesmyn Ward before. I've read her memoir, Men We Reaped, which is gut-wrenching. It is incredibly upsetting, and it's a book about her life, and it's sectioned off in 3 different parts based on 3 different people in her life that she had lost throughout different portions of her life. And honestly, the saddest portion of it was the portion where she talked about her brother. It was just so... I started crying when I read it, so I'm very excited to read this because I love Jesmyn Ward's writing very, very, very much. So I'm intrigued to see what this book entails, I should say, not whatever I was trying to say there a minute ago. Plus, I mean, it mentions James Baldwin, and I love James Baldwin. I read Giovanni's Room a while ago, and I still have to read Go Tell It on the Mountain. I've had it for so long, and I have just not gotten around to reading it because it's a classic, and it's written in a time where the language is so hard for me to decipher. I promise we're almost done, and then we can get on to the rest of the stream. This book is called Black Fatigue, How Racism Erodes the Mind, Body, and Spirit by Mary Frances Winters. And I believe this book, first of all, it has illustrations in it, pictures, I think, which I find very cool. And also, this book talks about just how much racism impacts Black people and, as the title suggests, erodes the mind, body, and spirit and just wears people down, or Black people down. And, I think there's statistics in here as well. Yeah, there's a lot of, statistics and data to back up her point. So, very, very excited to read this. Well, excited to read it because I want to know what data is in here. Not excited about the fact that racism impacts people in such a way that it literally makes them stressed and break down and hurt. I hope I got that point across. This one is Black Joy, Stories of Resistance, Resilience, and Restoration by Tracy Michelle Lewis Giggets. I almost said Giglets, then I'm like, wait, that's not right. Giggets. This book is just a compilation of moments of Black joy and resistance and overall just Black success, because there was something in the blurb that, like, I said, yeah, I agree. When Tracy M. Lewis Giggets wrote an essay on Black joy for the Washington Post, she had no idea just how deeply it would resonate. But the outpouring of responses affirmed her own lived experience, that Black joy is not just a weapon of resistance, it's a tool for resilience. That's it. That's what I saw in the blurb. And I was like, I absolutely have to pick this up and read it. So, I'm very excited to read this. I always love reading about success stories and just general joy in communities and such. We're almost done. We have 2 more books, and then we can get on with the rest of the stream. This one is called We Are Not Yet Equal, Understanding Our Racial Divide by Carol Anderson with Tanya Bolden and a foreword by Nick Stone. This one, I believe, is just in general talking about racism and how there's a lot left still in terms of society and how we've not yet progressed still, despite how much we want to say that racism doesn't exist anymore. Racism very clearly still exists in the world, everywhere. It's not just localized into one central area, it's everywhere. So I think this book is mainly going over that, and as well as like the history of where the origins began into the modern day and how we still see that in the modern day in a lot of aspects. So there we go. And then the last one is not related to the other ones. This one is about Indigenous people. It's called As We Have Always Done, Indigenous Freedom Through Radical Resistance by, if you would please not put the barcode, Leanne Bedesamosake Simpson. I think it's Bedesamoke. My bad. This book, I saw the author, and I recognized who she was, because she's written books before that I have wanted to pick up, and I was shocked to see her at my library. I 100% didn't think I would see her, but I picked it up the instant I saw it, also because I went to a lecture not too long ago with an Indigenous speaker, and in general, I just wanted to read more Indigenous literature and just learn more about Indigenous culture after that lecture. Not that I didn't want to before, it's just that just kind of kicked me in the ass and said, yeah, go pick up some Indigenous literature. So, the blurb in here says, across North America, Indigenous acts of resistance have in recent years opposed the... Gosh darn it, there's tape over it, so it's hard to see. The revival of federal protections for forests and waterways in Indigenous lands halted the expansion of tar sands extraction and the pipeline construction at Standing Rock and demanded justice for murdered and Indigenous women. In As We Have Always Done, Leanne Bedesamoke Simpson locates Indigenous political resurgence as a practice rooted in uniquely Indigenous theorizing, writing, organizing, and thinking. So, there's that. I'm gonna leave all these books here because I could not be asked to take them back and organize them nice and neatly back in the bag, so I'm going to save that for the end of stream. I'm out of breath, goodness me. But those are all the books, the nonfiction books that I plan to read this month, maybe into next month. Hopefully into next month, I mean. But I'm very excited to read all of those. They were such phenomenal picks. Like when I was looking through, there was just so much. I had to weed through a lot of god awful books for me to find those, because there's just a lot of books in my library about fucking like white supremacy and like a bunch of other god awful books. So I'm very excited to read those. All right, we're transitioning over to the screen. So I don't. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna put some music on in the background so that, excuse me, sorry, so that you guys won't have to sit in silence. Turn that way down. But you guys can't hear it. Lovely. There we go. Okay. So, as you could tell from the title of the stream, I'm sorry it took 30 minutes to get here, but as you can tell from the title of the stream, we're going to be talking about hyperfixations. I made a poll in my community tab asking what you guys would want to see from me in terms of, like a stream. Well, I've asked you guys to pick between investigating a horror series or talking about hyperfixations, and overwhelming majority out of 4 votes, people said to talk about hyperfixations. So we're gonna do that today. And I also just wanted to do this because it's like a break from talking about horror stuff all the time, even though that's my thing. I love talking about horror, but sometimes we just have to take a break, talk about other things for a little while. So we're gonna talk about hyperfixations. And if you don't know what a hyperfixation is, because you're neurotypical and you've probably not heard that term before, a hyperfixation means that you are, it's a neurodivergent term for mostly people who have ADHD or are autistic, and it means that you have an intense interest in something to the point where it's just all-consuming, and it makes you incredibly happy, and you would do anything to get more knowledge about it or get into it more, is the best way I can describe it, at least how it is for me. There are negative effects to having hyperfixations, such as, you know, lack of sleep. Sometimes you don't eat. Sometimes you sit for hours just consuming this hyperfixation in whatever form of media it's in, and you don't use the bathroom, you don't take care of yourself. So there are negative effects to it. I don't want to go in saying it's completely positive when it's not. But there are a lot of positives as well. It brings a lot of joy, and in general, it's just like something that makes you just so happy. And I keep saying that over and over, but it's true. Also, I just wanted to take a moment to just talk about these things, because, like, there's a lot of people who have hyperfixations on stuff but don't talk about them because they often get pushed down by, like, neurotypical people, because they find the conversation, the repetitive conversations, annoying, or I just find that whole thing annoying. I don't know how best to describe it, but, like, I just want to destigmatize it. And also just, you know, I also just want to, like, talk about it, because a lot of people think that when you hyperfixate on something, you're incredibly focused, and, like, a lot of neurotypical people use it the wrong way. And it's like, no, you cannot hyperfixate if you're neurotypical. You can be extremely focused on something, like a task, and, like, where you're just like straight line, nothing else but this task, but you cannot hyperfixate if you're neurotypical. So because you're neurotypical, your brain works fine. Your brain works fine, you know. Our brains don't. We work differently. So I cannot tell you how many times I've heard a neurotypical person use that term the wrong way, and it's just bugs me. It just absolutely bugs me. But anyway, so I thought I would take you on a little journey through multiple hyperfixations I've had over the years. I'm not going to talk about all of them because, quite frankly, I don't remember a lot of them because my memory sucks. But also just because I've had so many. Living 23 years is, you have a lot of stuff to talk about, you know? So we're gonna move me a little bit. Whoa. Oh my god, I got bigger. Whoa. We're gonna move me from the corner. I'm gonna bring the stuffed animals with me. We're just gonna get cozy today. Oh, Jesus. Massive Furby. Oh, God. The Furby. Oh, sherbet, honey. No. There we go. Okay. We're all cozy now. So, alright. I don't know, why did Mad Father music start playing? Jesus. So I'm trying to think of how best to approach this. I'm gonna go from, like, my younger years when I was just a little tiny kid on the playground to now. So I'm gonna jump around a lot. Increase a lot, sorry. Increase the babies. They've been increased. They're massive. They're big enough to fit in the palm of your hand now, and not just on the tip of your pinky finger. Okay. So, the longest lasting and oldest hyperfixation I've had has been on reading, and I think that's very apparent. Just look at my streams. I think you'll know how, like, I've had a long love and care for reading. Like, ever since I could remember. I don't know if I've told this story on stream, I might have, but excuse me. When I was younger, I was determined to start reading, like, well before I should have been starting to read, because I think my parents explained it as, like, I wanted to read. I wanted to know what the words were on the pages of the books that my parents were reading to me when I was younger. So, like, they signed me up for the program called Hooked on Phonics, which is a program that young kids can take to learn how to read. And I did that. I did it from A to Z, I believe is how it goes. They had instructional videos and, like, little books that they'd send you so that you could read through them. And I did that. And aced it. And I wasn't even in kindergarten yet. I was like 5 or 6, just about to hit kindergarten. And I was like right there. I was reading at a first grade level, I think. By the time I hit kindergarten, I was exceeding all expectations, and now here I am at the ripe age of 23. I don't think I'm reading above my grade level. In fact, I think I've stagnated. But as a result of this, we're gonna skip this track because that's intense. There we go. Good grief. But yeah, as a result of my love and hyperfixation on just the act of reading, I ended up hyperfixating on books, like certain book series. My mom tried to homeschool us when we were really young, which is why I was behind in school in my early years. Oh, geez, that sounds rough. Ooh, I was never homeschooled. I was sent immediately into public school. So, but I can't imagine what it would be like to be homeschooled. I'm not saying that being homeschooled is a bad thing. It's just, it depends on the parent and how much they really genuinely care about wanting to teach the kids. Where was I oh. Sorry, I got distracted there for a second, jeez. But yeah, I got hyperfixated on certain book series. And no, before you start assuming, I did not get into either Twilight or Harry Potter. I was not into those series because I hated them. I hated that people talked about them all the time. It was just so annoying to me. I just immediately garnered a massive amount of hate toward them. And you know what? My intuition was right. My intuition was correct to hate both of those franchises because the people behind them and the content itself was shit. So I saved myself a lot of agony there. But yeah, I didn't read either of those series. In fact, I think I didn't really read series much. I liked standalone novels, which is still how I feel to this day. I don't really read series. But the one series I did love and adore, and I still do, is the Percy Jackson series. Fun fact about me and my relationship to the Percy Jackson series was I never properly finished the series until I was 19. I read through to the 4th book and then stopped before the 5th book when I was in 5th grade. And then I tried rereading them again in high school, and I only got to the 3rd book. And then when I was 19, I finally got all of the books, minus the 5th one. I didn't get that till Christmas. But I got all of the books, and so I finally went through and I read all of them and finished the series, finally, the first series, Percy Jackson and the Olympians. It was so... oh, something else. I have all of the Heroes of Olympus books as well because I never got around to... because I never finished the original series when I was younger. I never got around to reading Heroes of Olympus, and I know a majority of people's favorite characters come from Heroes of Olympus. I still haven't finished House of Hades. I'm very embarrassed to say that, but also not. And I think I'm gonna have to make peace with the fact that I'm never gonna finish this goddamn series. I'm never gonna finish it. I'm never gonna finish it. These books are... they're thick. Oh my god. I think you could kill someone with these books. Like, honestly, they're over 500 pages. Most of them are. Or at least in the case of House of Hades, it's over 500 pages. It's so frustrating. It's honestly so frustrating. I want to finish it, I do, but like, oh. There's so many problems with the Percy Jackson series. Like, I'm not just saying, like, it's the most perfect series ever. It's not. Rick Riordan put so many racist stereotypes and made a lot of ableist, like, writing decisions toward characters who were clearly disabled, killed off a lot of characters that were queer-coded. Like, he did a lot of horrible things within not just the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, but, like, Heroes of Olympus and series after that. I think the Kane Chronicles got the worst of it because the characters were black, and for some reason he made it so that the black characters really admired Elvis, even though Elvis stole a lot of music from black artists and passed them off as his own and tried to emulate black fashion and pass it off as his own. He was just... he was not a good person. On top of the fact that he also groomed a young girl into becoming his bride. Like... yeah, it's... In any case, I 100% do not support any of the writing decisions that were made in the Heroes of Olympus and the Percy Jackson series as a whole regarding characters of color. Like, oh my god. I'm just remembering all the things that I read in the previous books, and it's all coming back to me now. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, why did you fucking write that? Like, oh god. But yeah, I was really hyperfixated on that series in particular, and especially with the character of, I think her name is Talia? Let me just... I call her Talia, I'm pretty sure it's Thalia. Yep. Thalia Grace. We're gonna call her Thalia because that's what I think her name is pronounced. She's a daughter of Zeus, and her brother is Jason. We're not gonna get into Jason, Jesus Christ. We're gonna skip this track because that's... No, I don't want horror music. Not that one either. That one works fine. Right, anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, I was really into the series, and as a... And, like, Thalia also, I was just like... I loved her so much. I can't tell if I wanted to be her or if I had a crush on her. I really don't know. Honestly, little baby me was very conflicted about my feelings toward girls. So, I'm just gonna assume I wanted to be her. But as a result of this hyperfixation on Percy Jackson, I also got hyperfixated on Greek mythology as a whole, which is not surprising. Oh, golly. Whew. But, the funny thing is like, my 5th grade teacher was the one that introduced us to Percy Jackson in the first place, because we're doing a unit on Greek mythology, but we only really went over the gods. We didn't really go in depth about... I think we did the origins of where the gods came from, but we didn't really go into depth about any myths or, like, heroes, or even tried to brush the tip of the massive story that is the Iliad and the Odyssey, which I own, by the way. I own both the Iliad and the Odyssey, and I've not read either of them. You could not make me read either of them, Jesus Christ. But yeah, it's... My love for Percy Jackson and my love for Greek mythology have persisted over the years. Excuse me. It's not, like, as intense as it was when I was younger, because I've outgrown the characters. I've surpassed them in age, and I no longer can relate to their struggles. I am a crisp 23 to their 18. I think. Currently they're 18. Because I think Rick is still writing about the characters. I think. Don't quote me on that. But I'm very excited for the Percy Jackson series that's gonna come out soon. I'm beyond excited. I'm gonna... When it comes out, I don't have a subscription to Paramount Plus, sadly, so I can't watch it on a streaming service, but I will find a way to watch it, regardless. I have my means. I will download a car. That's the only indication I'll give, because I don't want YouTube looking at this VOD and saying, "You're promoting a torrenting outright?" It's like, no. I said I'd download a car. Take that with what you will. But yeah. Greek mythology. We're transitioning into that now. Greek mythology as a whole. It's interesting. Like, there's so many myths out there that all explain different things about life. Way back in the Hellenistic age, when a lot of the popular myths that we know now were created or, like, retold in a different way, because a lot of Greek mythology was one, it's still an active religion. It's called Hellenism, I believe. And two, it's been an oral tradition to pass the stories down, and I don't think it was until Homer that people started writing them down. So a lot of myths have been lost to the ages because they were oral traditions. So so there's just a lot out there that we don't know. We don't even know what myths there were or what gods they worshipped. Well, we have an idea, but we don't know what it was like pre-Hellenistic age. What we know is just what we know, because the language is dead. It's a dead language. We can't understand it. I say we as if I'm part of the research team looking into this stuff. I'm not. I'm just one of the people that has a surface level knowledge of Greek mythology. But one of my favorite Greek myths has to be... Oh, what one? Anything with Dionysus, because he's just chaotic. I mean, he whittled a wooden dildo. That's just so absurd for me to say. He whittled a wooden dildo to pleasure someone who was dying, I think. I don't entirely remember it, but I do remember that beginning portion for obvious reasons. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you had to hear me say that. I want to look it up really quickly. Hold on. Hold on. No, please don't give me that. Hold on a second. There we go. I found it. It's a Twitter post. That explains. The music turned off. Now come back to me, music. Come back to me. I'm not even gonna read any of this. I just needed to double check something. But yeah, I was partially right. Oh god, I'm so sorry. But yeah, you got Dionysus was quite an interesting guy. He's also responsible for turning a bunch of people into dolphins because he disguised himself as a mortal being, and he got kidnapped by a bunch of pirates, and they didn't realize it was Dionysus, and they treated him horribly, so he just went, oh, well fuck you guys, and he turned everyone into dolphins. It was pretty interesting. But I think, of course there's always the myths about, like, the couples and stuff. I love Orpheus and Eurydice because of Hades Town. Fantastic musical, and it just made me love those two even more. Like, the tale of Orpheus and how he is just so in love with this girl and would do anything for her, including going to the ruler of the underworld himself. I almost said death himself, and I'm like, wait, nope, that's not right. Going to the ruler of the underworld himself and his bride, and going, hey, can you give me my girlfriend back? Or, like, bride, I think they got married. Can you give me my bride back because she died getting bit by a snake? And died from the poison, or the venom. And he went, yeah, you can have her back, so long as you don't look behind you, up until you get to the surface. But because he didn't think that, he was, like, convinced that she wasn't behind him, and so he, as he was reaching the surface, looked behind him, and she was gone. She was there the whole time, but she went back. Because if he looked behind him, then she would go back to the underworld, and she couldn't come back. Left him heartbroken, poor guy, and then he got eaten to death. Eaten to death? Nope, he just got picked apart and eaten by a bunch of, fanatical followers of Dionysus. I don't remember. The Danae? I think they're called the Danae. Can you tell I did a lot of research because somehow the terminology just comes back to me on a whim? In the same vein of Greek mythology, there's also Achilles and... Oh shit, what was his name? Uh-oh. What was his name? Oh no! I can't remember his name. Oh shit, hold on. Patroclus. My bad, I'm so sorry, goodness. Yeah, Achilles and Patroclus, and I think I was first made aware of the two of them from Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, which is a fantastic book. I've never finished it because it made me emotional because I got to the Trojan War and I just didn't want to keep reading it. But Achilles and Patroclus, like so many interpretations of the two, mostly from modern retellings that have been Christianized, try to make them out to be like cousins or brothers, or like, you know, brothers in quotation marks, as in like they're really close friends but are bonded as though they are siblings. But like, oh no, baby, no. They are 100% in love with each other. They're not related. I mean, why else would you grow up with this guy and like do everything with him, and the only person that can calm him down, or like Achilles anyway, calm Achilles down when he's upset in the Iliad is Patroclus? I'm not kidding either. The only person that can calm Achilles down when he has like a little fit, like a hissy fit for being, or it's not even a hissy fit, it's just like he got angry because Agamemnon tried to send him out as like the man shield because of the Achilles heel. The only part of him that they could touch because he had this impenetrable skin was his heel. But like he didn't want to be a shield, so he was like, fuck you, I'm going back and hiding in my tent and crying. How dare you even think to use me as a shield for you all. And then they had to send Patroclus in and be like, bud, you gotta go out there and fight. We gotta get Helen and Troy back. He was like, fine. And then it cost him his life. Honest to God, I could go on forever about Greek mythology, and I need to reel back a little bit, because I will go on forever. But needless to say, like, those types of myths. Also, Apollo and Hyacinthus, of course. Apollo and Hyacinthus. And also, Artemis. Sorry, I had to think of her name for a second. Artemis. Everyone likes to say that she's a lesbian because she supposedly hasn't ever been with a man and never really shown interest in it. But I have to point out that Orion exists, and she really, really loved Orion. So much so that she turned him into a constellation after he died. So at most, she's bisexual. And also asexual. For me. She's an asexual icon. And so is, God, trying to come up with these names on the top of my brain in front of a live audience is really hard. What is her name? What is her name? Hold on. I'll come up with it in a second. Athena. Athena and Artemis are asexual. You cannot convince me otherwise. Anyway. Let's move away from all of that, because I could talk about it forever and I have so much to go over anyways. So also, if you have any hyperfixations that you want to bring up and talk about in chat, feel free. This is a safe space for those of you who are neurodivergent, who want to bring up your fixations, your loves, your interests, your special interests also. It's a safe space. Feel free to bring them up. You are not annoying. I love hearing about whatever you're interested in, and I will talk about them with you because I love it so much. Sorry. Blech. My goodness, my stutter is really bad today. So, okay. Moving away from Greek mythology, what else was I interested in? Sonic the Hedgehog was a big, pivotal character in my life that I was really hyperfixated on. And I blame Sonic Unleashed for that. Because Sonic Unleashed caught my attention from the trailer they did for the game. And it was so fucking cool. I went, I need it. And then I got it, and the game was not at all what I thought it was going to be. But I still fell in love with Sonic the Hedgehog as a result. And when I was younger, when my mom would take me to the library, I would go to the comic book section, and instead of looking for any like DC Marvel comics, I would look for Sonic comics. And I brought home a lot of them. And I have a few of them that someone I'm not friends with anymore gave me a long time ago because they had a massive collection of Sonic comics they got from garage sales. So I have a few of them. Some of them are missing covers, and that's fine. It is fine. I'm just happy to have them. But yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog was such a pivotal character for me. I have my little Sonic doll. He's right here. I finally found him. You guys remember during the Needle Mouse stream when I tried to look for my little Sonic doll that I had? I found him. He was under my bed, and I just didn't see him. Like a dingus. So he's here. I've had this guy forever. I got him at a video store. A nondescript video store. I'm not giving you a name of it because I don't want to give any indication of where I am. But I have him. He's like a classic. He's the classic Sonic. He's not the modern Sonic that we all know with like the green pupils and stuff. He's classic Sonic. Also, he has his finger pointed up, and he's also a little, like, you can hang him from stuff because he has a little string hanging off the top of his head. So, you know what? Let me get a picture of, let me put a picture of Sonic the Hedgehog behind me. If I could spell Sonic the Hedgehog, that'd be great. I remember when the Sonic movies were first announced, like the ones that, the modern ones that have Jim Carrey in them, everyone was making fun of how gross the Sonic character looked, like the design. Excuse me, goodness. The design for him looked. And I was just right there with everyone. I was like, this looks so not good. And thankfully the creators of the movie, the directors, heard the criticism and changed him so that he doesn't look like that anymore. I saw the first two movies in theaters. I saw the first one before the pandemic, and then I saw the second one not too long ago, actually. I saw it a few months ago now. It was alright. I wouldn't say it was the best, but we'll have to see how the next one turns out, because that one has Shadow the Hedgehog in it, and I love Shadow so much. Jesus Christ. I'm so sorry, you just got a Sonic the Hedgehog jump scare. I'm so sorry. He's gonna hang out back. Why don't I put up a visual of everything I've been talking about so far? There's gonna be a hell of a lot of images, so I'm not gonna do that, actually. That sounds like a bad idea. We're just gonna keep Sonic right here. I'm so... Oh my god, that's so funny. I'm so sorry. Why don't I change out from the Evo OST? I'm gonna put the Witch's House OST on. Hold on, guys. We're swapping out. Perfect. We just have Sonic the Hedgehog hanging out. And you know what else? Who else should join in? Do you know who else should join in? I think we know who's gonna join in. Give me a second here. People joining the stream are gonna see this and go, what the fuck? Why is there a shadow and like Sonic the Hedgehog? I spoiled it. It's fine. Why are there Sonic characters? Why are there Sonic characters hanging out on the stream? so stupid, but I love it. I spoiled. It's fine. Here we go. There he is. There's my first ever blorbo, guys. You know that term that's floating around, blorbo? This is mine. Shadow the Hedgehog was my favorite blorbo. I loved him very much because he was edgy, and I was edgy as a kid. So, there you go. It's so stupid. I'm so sorry. I'm skipping this one. I hate this one. The chase theme sucks. Right, okay, sorry. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know how to bounce back from that. Anyway, so Sonic the Hedgehog meant a lot to me as a kid. I was able to name a lot of Sonic characters because I was so invested in the universe of Sonic the Hedgehog, which included Sonic X and a bunch of the other, like, games and comics and stuff. I knew, like, almost every character. Even the obscure ones. I'm like, oh, I know this guy. Like, if you point to, well, not modern, excuse me, not modern, Sonic characters, because there's new characters and I don't know who the fuck they are. But, like, older ones that are more obscure, I can point them out to you and say, yeah, this is this character, this is that character, because I've ingrained myself so deeply in the Sonic lore. I used to do Sonic OC, like, recolors, where I would take, which was a thing for a very long time, where you would take a character from Sonic X and take a screen cap from the show and recolor over the characters in paint and make your own OCs as a result. There's a lot of those. I did a lot of them when I was younger. And more specifically, I would recolor the character of Cosmo, who was a Seadron, which was a species that was made up for Sonic X. By the way, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't recolor over, like, show screen caps and, like, try to pass it off as your own art. Like, no, don't do that. That's stealing and claiming, like, that you did that when you didn't. Like, those artists work hard on those characters. I don't have anything against, like, if you wanna, like, recolor the character and make their race different. Like, 100% you can do that. That's perfectly fine. Because, like, you're just taking the character and you're changing your race. That's it. What I mean is, like, taking a screen cap and then passing it off as your own. Like, recoloring it, making your own art. If that makes any sense. Don't do that. Art theft is not cool, guys. But I never posted mine anywhere. I just kept mine to myself. But still, I shouldn't have done that. I was like 8. I didn't know. But still. Excuse me. But yeah, I you know what else too was a huge thing in back in the day was videos, like tribute videos that were so incredibly edgy. They would take these like horror images of Sonic characters and put like edgy music behind them. They'd do all sorts of horrible things to the Sonic characters. And, just put, like, 3 days grace in the background. I watched those all the time, even though they scared the shit out of me. Another thing that I noticed was they did Sonic animation compilations, where they'd put Sonic in all sorts of different scenarios, and, like, different animators would come together and put Sonic in different scenarios, or like parody the game, or like games, I should say, not game. There's only one Sonic game, no. Or just parody the character in general. And there was one series in specific, I can't remember the name of it now, but it was the most adult thing I saw at that time, and mind you, I was really young. I was probably like 8, 9, 10 years old, and I was watching, like, Sonic characters smoking weed, flying to Mexico, where they would, get wasted on tequila, and, there was a portion of it where Amy Rose stripped in front of a bunch of men on a stripper pole. Mind you, she's, a minor, I'm pretty sure her character is a minor, so it's bizarre. And then there was also, like, a portion where Shadow was, like, high out of his mind on cocaine and convinced that people were out to kill him, and he was barricaded in his hotel room with a shotgun or something like that. And then at one point he jumped out the window and booked it. This is just what I'm remembering off the top of my head. I don't remember what the video was, or like the series of it was. But that's what I was watching. And I was also watching these series. I hope you don't know anything about Sonichu. Oh, honey. I wish I could tell you I didn't know anything about Sonichu. But sadly I do. I know about Christian. Or Christine, as she's known. I know about her and Sonichu. I didn't know about her when I was younger, thankfully. But I know about her now. And, like, everything that she's done. And I think she's going to trial soon, I think, because she was arrested not too long ago. But yeah, I know about Sonichu. Oh boy. God. I know about a lot of things, sadly. Actually, I'm gonna, real quick, do a YouTube search for, that Sonic series I was talking about. God, don't give me the Game Grumps, please. Okay, I'm glad to see that a lot of Sonic animations are kid-friendly, or just clips from Sonic X, because, good God, the animations that I saw when I was younger were definitely not for children. Can I, not this year, I wish I could look for stuff from, like, 2008. Okay, it might actually have gotten taken off of YouTube. Oh no. Wait a second. Oh my god, I found the original channel that posted those Sonic shorts. I was talking to you guys about the compilations of Sonic animations that I saw when I was younger. Oh god. Oh my god. Oh no. It just unlocked a memory. Oh god. Hold on. If I type in this, will I get what I was originally thinking of? Oh, I got the Sonic the Werehog short. Nope, that's not it. I thought that was it for a second. No, where's my brain? What was I saying? I lost it. Shit. Oh, the Night of the Werehog short is really good. I love the Night of the Werehog short. It was also the one short that got me into Sonic as well as Sonic Unleashed. It like tied in. I know this is fruitless. I shouldn't actually just scroll. I shouldn't do this because it's inappropriate. I couldn't show you guys anyway. But I just want to know for my own sake if it's still up on YouTube. Because it's like years old. It's probably like over 10 years old now. Good God. I want to show you. Actually, I will show you guys my screen. Hold on. Oh no, that's the wrong thing. Why isn't it letting me move anything? Okay, so we're gonna have to hide these two dorks for a minute. Alright, we're going on a wild goose chase here, guys. Hold on. Why not? Why not, you know? Why not? This is part of it. This is part of our discussions of hyperfixations, even though it's probably taking a little bit too long and I get easily distracted. Why not? You know? Why not? Okay. I muted the page, so let me... That's the wrong thing. Also, let me make this smaller so I can pop out chat. There we go. Alright. Excuse me. If it would capture the window, that would be fantastic. Actually, I'm just gonna delete the Shadow and Sonic because, like, they're distracting me in the OBS settings. Alright. That is the wrong thing. I just looked at my phone for a second. That's not at all what I expected to see. Good grief. Things are happening on social media currently. I think the Streamer Awards are currently happening. Which, okay, whatever. I don't care. Okay, so we're gonna do this so I can hide my subscriptions. Not that I have anything to hide, it's just annoying to look at them the whole time. Okay, so this is what I was doing. This is the channel that I was talking about. That, has, these shorts that I watched when I was younger. There's the Night of the Werehog short. I can't show that to you because I'm pretty sure that Nintendo/Sega would, they would try to copy strike my stream, and I don't want that. So, these are all these shorts. See, look at how old. 13 years old. Like, these videos are really old. I was watching these when I was younger. Quartz deserves a streamer award instead. What category would I even get nominated for? Best live streamer on YouTube? Absolutely not. I'm small peas compared to the pond of streamers on YouTube that are absolutely killing it. So, I mean, I don't think I'm worthy of an award. I'd have to do something out of the box to well and truly deserve a streamer award. So, but like, okay, so I'm trying to, I can't remember what it was called. That's the thing, I can't remember what it was called. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna video hop really quickly, which is what I tend to do. I pull up a video and I look at the recommended and see what, if it might get recommended to me. So I'm gonna pull up an original Sonic short. We're not gonna watch it. We're not gonna watch it. I assure you. No, 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 no. We're not gonna watch it. Yeah, also don't mind the comments. Don't mind the comments. They're a bit strange. I'm gonna see if it's gonna get recommended to me, and if it doesn't, then I'm gonna give up, because this is just a fruitless search. But I still want to try anyway, just in case. But it was like a set of videos. I'm sure somebody out there knows what I'm talking about. It's a set of videos that were so bizarre. Oh hey, Super Eye Patch Wolf. Oh yeah, they made a lot of silver is gay jokes, because calling people gay was a very, fun thing to do back then, I guess. I can't find it. Okay, so this was a fruitless search. Like I said, fruitless search. So I'm not gonna push it further. There's no point. There's no point. But those were just a couple of videos in the endless amount of videos that I watched about Sonic the Hedgehog, including like creepypasta ones. There's just one thing I won't talk about when it comes to Sonic, and I'm not even gonna mention it because it freaked me out, and it still freaks me out to this day. So let me put the Blorbos back here. Alright. I spent too much time on Sonic the Hedgehog. let's swiftly move along, everyone. Back to my younger years. Discord, I swear to God. Okay, so, what else was I into when I was younger? I'm thinking elementary school and stuff. Like, what was I into when I was in elementary school? I think I covered all my bases there. Let's move on to middle school, because I think that's where the real meat and potatoes of my hyperfixations were. But I also have to emphasize, I was not fully aware of the term hyperfixation until not too long ago, probably like 2-3 years ago, because I self-diagnosed myself with ASD. Because I did a lot of proper research, don't worry, I didn't just randomly out of the blue say like, oh, I'm autistic. No, I did my research. A lot of things lined up with what I experienced in my childhood that I now see in my everyday life and recognize like, oh, that was what I did when I was younger and this is what I do now that lines up with ASD. So I didn't I swear to I did my research, alright? I just want to make sure people know that. I almost forgot about the cartoons that I was really into when I was younger. Then we can move on into middle school stuff. Okay, so there were 3 shows that I think I really deeply, deeply adored, which was Code Lyoko, Courage the Cowardly Dog, and Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack. And, no, 4th one, Powerpuff Girls. I almost forgot about the Powerpuff Girls. Those were the 4 cartoons that melded me into the person that I am today, and, at least 3 of those have some horror elements to them, and the other one is just a show about young girls who are superheroes. I actually, fun fact, have the box set with every single episode of the Powerpuff Girls on it. Because I love the Powerpuff Girls so much. But yeah, Code Lyoko was because it was just one of those shows that was on Cartoon Network, and I just adored it. I still adore it. I love it so much I have an entire, like, rewrite in my head that I want to do to this day, that I've been working on since I was 18. I just really want to rewrite Code Lyoko and make it darker, because it's a kid's show. It came from France. It was in the import of, like, French cartoons that came into America, which was, like, Code Lyoko and Totally Spies and all those cartoons. But, yeah, Code Lyoko was something else. I don't want to, it's very hard to explain, because it's so long, but the best way I can condense it is this really smart kid named Jeremy finds a supercomputer in an abandoned factory, and he, turns it on and finds out that there's a digital girl in there named Aelita who has been in there for God knows how long, and lives in a virtual world called Lyoko, and within Lyoko there's this virus creature that can come into the real world as a form of, like, mist called Xana, and, Jeremy rounds together with these 3 other people, friends, I guess, quote-unquote friends. They become friends later on. His classmates, we'll call them now, because he lives at a boarding school. They're Ulrich, Odd, and Yumi, and together they form the Lyoko Warriors, where they all come together to fight off Xana and make sure that the real world doesn't fall apart and or fall into natural disaster, because Xana constantly tries to sabotage everything and kill everyone. It's intense. It was a very intense show. I mean, there's a lot of implications that people who die as a result of Xana attacks don't come back to life, because they do this thing called a return to the past, where they rewind time to the beginning of the day, and but there's an implication that the people who die as a result of Xana attacks don't come back when they do the return to the past. So and the memory of those people are just gone at that point. They're just gone. They never come back. So yeah, this was a kid's show. But yeah, there was a bunch of other dark stuff in there too, like dying of laughing gas, or at least passing out. almost dying as a result of listening to really loud music. A lot of beating the kids up, choking them, zapping them with electricity. There was a whole, there was a portion, or like it was a plot element where Aelita would constantly get picked up by a thing called a schizoid, which was like a giant jellyfish creature, and the point of the schizoid was to take her memories away. All the memories that lived in her head about, you know, how Leoka worked and stuff. Like, that creature was created specifically to take her memories. And it happened twice. And a lot of times there were close calls, but there were 2 instances where she completely had her memories wiped. It was horrifying. Yeah, it was quite a show. I won't go further into it, but I still love that show to death. God, I love it so much. And then they did a shitty reboot in 2016 where it was live action, even though the show was like a mix of 2D and 3D. They just did it live action with a mix of live action and 3D, and it just didn't work. It was awful. Courage the Cowardly Dog I've talked a lot about, but like, to condense why I love Courage the Cowardly Dog so much is because it scared me when I was younger, but I was still intrigued, and I still watched it anyway. Like, I still watched it despite it scaring me. And of course there's still episodes that I probably would not still be able to watch to this day, like The Return, The Slab Mummy. God, no. And I also probably could not watch the one where it's a giant cockroach, I think, unless Muriel asks her to come to Hollywood to do a performance with her sitar. That one scared me a lot when I was younger because of a claymation girl playing the cello. But it was definitely a really good show. I loved it to death. And one of my favorite episodes is actually Kitty and Bunny. I loved that one very much. I also really loved the Dr. Sleep one. I shouldn't say Dr. Sleep. It's the one with the doctor who shoots, like, cannonballs at people and makes them fall asleep. I also really liked the episode where the entirety of the middle of nowhere was flooded over. That one just had a lot of scenery that stuck with me. And there's also the mattress one where that directly parodied The Exorcist. It was... Can you tell I just watched it a lot as a kid? I just remember episodes off the top of my head. But yeah, it meant a lot to me, even if it did scare me a lot. Probably because I could relate to Courage a lot. It was just a comforting show. There was also, The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack, which not a lot of people talk about because I don't think a lot of people remember that show exists, frankly. Because a lot of people remember Chowder, right? A lot of people remember that show because of how bizarre and meta it was. But at the same time that Chowder was airing, The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack also was airing. It had a similar time block. I think it would go Chowder first and then The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack. At least from what I remember of the syndication when I watched it on television. But I remember it airing one day on Cartoon Network, and I just remember how bizarre it was. And how it was a mix of 2D animation and claymation, which you hardly ever see. The closest we would get was Courage, with the occasional mix-up of 3D animation, special effects, 3D, like, IRL, green screen. That was just a jumble of words, good grief. And the occasional, claymation. My parents were disturbed that we watched Flapjack. I'll bet that your parents were disturbed that you watched Flapjack. My parents didn't really pay much mind to it, I think, because they saw Courage and were like, oh, this is the type of programming they're gonna air on Cartoon Network. As long as it doesn't give her nightmares, it's fine. I say as I had nightmares from even shows like Samurai Jack. But no, Flapjack was such a bizarre show. It was so bizarre, because the animation was incredibly uncanny. I don't know if I can get away with showing you guys clips from Flapjack, because my last VOD where I showed you guys a clip from Courage the Cowardly Dog got my stream claimed. But I really want to show, like, certain clips from Flapjack, but I won't, because I don't want Cartoon Network coming after me and claiming my stream again. But, it was just... Good grief, this song has been going on forever. 9 minutes! 9 minutes! The song is 9 minutes. Oh my god. And I just started it over on accident. It's fine. It's fine. Sorry. Anyway, as I was saying, Flapjack was... I keep saying it was something, but genuinely I can't put to words how weird it was. The episode that always sticks out in my head is the episode where they went west. I could not think of the West in the same way after I watched that. Because I just see the guy going west in my head every single time I thought of the cardinal direction of west. Or I'd think of that clip of Patrick going east. I thought he said weast. Or something like that. But yeah, I watched Flapjack a lot and I loved it, even though it was weird. Also there's that, I know a lot of people know Flapjack the most because of the cat. The cat with there's no eyes in its mouth, is just a circle with a bunch of jagged teeth in it. I know a lot of people recognize Flapjack because of that, but the way I recognize Flapjack is through everything else. Because I remember this, like, old guy that was on the show. He's like a 40-year-old man, but he looked like he was like 6, and everyone kept mistaking him for a child, and he was like, oh, 6! Or like 7, I'm 43! Or something like that. And he'd zoom in on his face, and he was like wrinkled a little bit, and then he'd be smiling, and then it'd show him frowning, and he barely had any teeth, which is not unusual for the area they lived in, which was a dock, and scurvy was a thing. So, but that always stuck out in my mind. It was also bizarre they lived in a whale's mouth and used the tongue as a blanket, and also would push the teeth in to exit or enter. There was also Candy Bride. I just got the most potent memory of Candy Bride, or Candy Wife, I think her name was. Oh god. Like how much the guy that ran the candy store loved her. And my brain, I was just like, I mean, when I was a kid, I thought it was normal. I didn't think twice about it, but as I got older, I was like, why is he married to Candy? Plus she was partially sentient. Or sentient. Like she could do stuff by herself. It was so weird. Oh Jesus Christ, what else was there about Flapjack? I'm trying to think. There was a lot. I could go over so much when it comes to Flapjack, but I won't, because like that's a rabbit hole and a half to go down with Flapjack. It was just one of those interesting shows that you can never replicate alongside shows like Courage the Cowardly Dog. It's just one of a kind, and you're never gonna get another thing like that again. At least in the modern day. Like, the shows nowadays are so dumbed down from what they used to be. There are some gems here and there, but you're not gonna get anything like that again. I think networks are getting stricter about cartoons and what you can put on there. And definitely networks don't want to scare the shit out of kids anymore. That kind of makes me sad, because now a lot of younger kids aren't going to experience what I experienced, which was getting scared the shit out of when I was 8 years old by a badly rendered 3D mummy asking for the slab to come back or to suffer his curse. And then the last one was Powerpuff Girls. I'm not going to go into in depth about the Powerpuff Girls, but one fun fact I want to bring up, just because it just hit me suddenly, like a few weeks ago. So I was listening to Majesty from Meliora off of, which is a Ghost album. I'll talk about Ghost later. But, the end lyric of that song, I miss creepy stuff and creepy in kid stuff. I used to watch Invader Zim. Oh, I'll bring that up in a second. You just reminded me of something. But the end lyric of Majesty is Your Infernal Majesty. And when I was writing something, I looked up his Infernal Majesty, which can be abbreviated as him. And something just clicked in my brain, because there was an antagonist from the Powerpuff Girls called just him. And a lot of people over the years were like, it's just the devil. Of course. And, like, I didn't know why he was called him. And then it clicked in my brain. I was like, oh! He's called him because it's short for his Infernal Majesty. Oh! Like, it just clicked. I was like, oh! It just literally had a brain blast in the middle of me writing something. And it just kind of clicked in my brain and made a lot of things make sense in my childhood. I was like, oh. So a hyperfixation actually helped with another hyperfixation I had. So, yeah. But yeah. Right, so you brought up Invader Zim. That also reminded me that a friend of mine... Oh, we're not friends anymore, Jesus Christ, I keep forgetting to say that. Someone I used to be friends with, when we were kids, was really obsessed with Invader Zim, which then bled through into me, and I accidentally got obsessed with Invader Zim. Not to the point where I was hyperfixated, but, like, I was deeply invested in Invader Zim, but I wouldn't watch the TV series because, I was 10, and I didn't know how to find ways to watch it properly, so I would watch episodes on YouTube. But because they were trying to get around the copyright system, they would upload the videos in weird ways, and one episode I watched was completely upside down. So I sat weird in my dad's office chair on the family computer. I sat with my head on the seat, like watching it upside down, because I just wanted to watch an episode of Invader Zim. But, like, oh my god. I remember Invader Zim so well. I never finished the series, or, like, really truly got invested in the series. Sorry, my nail just scraped in my headphones and made the worst sound known to man, and now I feel it in my teeth. I'm like, weird texture stuff. God, I hate it. Okay, sorry. But I never finished the series. Australian edition of Invader Zim. Yeah, but I never got into the series, but I really liked the characters. And I did watch the movie not too long ago. I think it was a couple of years ago I watched the movie. I loved it. But I don't like Johann Vasquez because he's a fucking weirdo. And his Johnny the Homicidal Maniac comic is very... not good. Not good. I didn't have any judgment when I was younger because I did read Johnny the Homicidal Maniac when I was younger. But then I got older and I read it again and I just realized how fucking horrible it is. It is god-awful. Please do yourself a favor and do not read Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. Save yourself from that. And also just spare yourself of any other of Johann Vasquez's work because he is a fucking weirdo. And not in a good way. Not in a good way. But yeah. So thank you for reminding me of Invader Zim. I completely almost forgot about that. Good grief, I pushed that show so far out of my mind, I completely and utterly forgot about it. Even though, right behind me, I have a Gur backpack. Not of, like, Gur, not shaped like Gur, but, just has Gur's face on it. And it's one of my most treasured pieces of anything. It's one of my favorite things ever. I need to clean it out because it's got a bunch of shit sitting in it that's been there for a few years. So, because I want to use it again at some point. I'm not gonna let it go to waste. But yeah, it definitely sticks out in my room. You just see a bunch of normal stuff like a book bag, my sketchbooks, some spare pillows in my bookcase, and then you see 2 wide eyes staring at you with a tongue sticking out. And it's green. So yeah. I guess we can move on now to middle school. Middle school is when I got into anime and manga. I joined the manga club at my school, which was a mistake, because everyone there was interesting. I met a few good people in there, but, like, some people there. Ooh, boy. I got really, really into this anime called Free Iwatobi Swim Club, which was, as the name suggests, an anime about a swim club in high school. And it's surface level. I thought it was just going to be another sports anime. Or, well, it was my first sports anime. But I didn't have any expectations going in. I just expected, like, the sport of swimming. But it was a lot more than that. I fell in love with the characters. I watched all of season 1, and then when season 2 came out, I was watching it on a day-to-day basis. It broke my heart to pieces. I was watching an episode in the middle of passing period once. I shouldn't have. Granted, I shouldn't have. But I did anyway. I watched 50% off on YouTube. Oh my god, 50% off. I just unlocked another memory. 50% off, oh my god. Oh my god, that is a relic of old YouTube, is 50% off. Jesus Christ. I still sometimes quote, I hate it when you leave, but I love watching you go. But obviously not with the connotation or the cadence of the voice that was used, because there was obviously a black accent, and the Nagisa that was portrayed in 50% off is 100% just a caricature of black stereotypes, you know, like thug life and living in the ghetto and stuff like that. So that aged like fucking milk. It was never okay to begin with, granted, but it just is yuck. But 50% off was something. But in terms of the anime, Jesus Christ, that anime was so much. Thinking back on it now, there was a lot of queer baiting in it. Although I don't necessarily know if it was queer baiting. There was an almost kiss in it, where Makoto was giving Haru CPR because Makoto got stuck out in the ocean because he has a fear of the ocean, I think it was, because he almost drowned when he was younger, and he went out there to go save Rei, but, like, got separated because Nagisa also went out there like an idiot. But him, Haru, Rei, and Nagisa all got separated, and him, Makoto, and Haru were stuck together, and Haru was like, of course he got a bunch of water in him, so he's trying to like do CPR, and they were gonna do mouth to mouth, and then Haru came miraculously back from he woke up and was fine. I cannot express to you how I was like sat at the edge of my seat because I thought I was gonna see mouth to mouth, and I didn't. And I just sat back in my chair, and I was like, oh, come on. Yeah, that series was interesting. It got worse past season 2. I didn't even watch it because the animation quality just got worse. Proportions didn't look right, and they got the yaoi hands treatment. Yikes! But I definitely hold season 1 and season 2 close to my heart because it was like the first sports anime I ever watched and the first and like sports anime I enjoyed. And it also broke my heart. But it was also kind of funny sometimes because it was like, let's go to Australia. Fuck it. Just midway through season 2. Like, yeah, fuck it. We're going to Australia. But I guess the first anime I ever actually watched, I will not admit the first one that I watched because I just won't. I just don't. I'll watch, like, okay. I'm not gonna admit it, but like the first proper one that I watched that wasn't a result of coercion from another person was Ouran High School Host Club, and I loved the series growing up, but I can definitely see where there's a lot of issues with it. A lot of issues, in fact, with it, where they portrayed lesbians as though they were Nazis. The whole weird incest angle thing they did with the Hitachi twins. Lolly bait. There's a lot of transphobia and general, like, queer phobia directed toward drag queens and trans women. It's just transphobia again, I should just state that. There was a line that was uttered in the dub and the sub that was like, we're just a bunch of queers. Which is funny to me, but I understand why it offends a lot of people. But it's just, yeah. That show also aged like milk. Completely and utterly, and I'm glad it never got a season 2. And also, the one episode where they went to the beach. The second episode of that. I think it was like 2 episodes. Might have been 1. There's a portion of that episode that makes me so incredibly uncomfortable. Excuse me, good lord. When I was younger, I was like 13, I think, when I first watched Ouran. I didn't pay any mind to it because, like, I didn't recognize what it was. And then as I rewatched it when I got older after trauma happened, yeah, no, that portion completely and utterly made me just crawl into a ball and never want to see the light of day again. Those of you probably know what I'm talking about when I brought up the beach episode, of course. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, there's a character in the show. Her name is Haruhi, and she's dressed up like a man for the host club so that she can pay off a debt. But during this particular episode, she's she's angry at Tamaki, who's her love interest, but like it's always just like a joke in the series. But he's her love interest, but she just doesn't show it right away. I digress. She's mad at Tamaki, and she shows this anger by eating a lot of crab legs, and she gets sick and goes to just a random room and goes and throws up. And she wasn't paying attention where she was going, and she just like, oh wait, I went in some random room, and she peeks out and it's Kyoya's room, who is the how do I describe him? He's the guy that keeps the books. He's the smart guy. And also his family just owns fucking everything, as every family does in the show. But this particular portion of it, he had just like gotten out of the shower, and she just didn't pay attention to the fact that she was in his room and was apologizing. And he then starts like explaining to her like you caused a lot of issues because she was thrown off of a ledge trying to defend some girls from getting harassed by a couple of guys, and Tamaki went in and saved her, and thus what spurned the whole argument. And Kyoya had to go in and like do damage control, I guess, like give a lot of stuff to like, you know, appease everyone. The men were kicked out, the girls were given flowers, he had to pay out a lot of money, is what I'm trying to say. And in like explaining this story, he's like, man, he says something along the lines of like, you owe a lot because it's your fault. And she's like, I'm so sorry, how can I pay you off? And he's like, well, and he turns off the lights, he's like, well, you could pay me back with your body. And like pushes her onto his bed and like hovers over her, is like, I could just take you here and now if I wanted to. You like you could pay off your debt this way and you wouldn't have to tell anybody, or something like that. And like he doesn't do anything to her, of course, because she calls him out and says like, you wouldn't do anything to me because you don't have the balls or something like that. But yeah, that just made me uncomfortable. He's just like, well, like at any point he could just have done that and like done stuff to her, but didn't. Thankfully didn't. But it still was very uncomfortable. I'm explaining it poorly, probably, but it was just so uncomfortable. Like, and then the mood shifts into like comedy immediately afterward. It's just such a weird tonal dissonance. Like there was potentially going to be an assault that happened, and then you just play it off like nothing happened by swapping the scene. That show felt like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. Oh, it felt like 1 step forward, 30 steps backward into a pit. Like 30 steps into a pit. Oh my god. But yeah, it was fucking ugh. Definitely nowadays I would not go and rewatch the show. I've rewatched it several times, but like nowadays I probably wouldn't go back and rewatch it because of just how much I know now is really, really problematic, and there's just no like sifting around that. I can't enjoy it, especially knowing they equate lesbians to Nazis. That's just so right, so then what else? There was a manga that I was deeply invested in called Twin Spica that I just adored, and I read it for so long. I read it up until my sophomore year of high school, and it was a very sad manga series about a young girl who wanted to become an astronaut, and it's heartbreaking. Very, very heartbreaking, especially because there's a death in it that caught me off guard, that made me cry. But it's a very good manga, packs an emotional punch, and I highly recommend it. I'm not going to go too in-depth into it, one, because I don't remember a lot of it, and also because I talked far too long about Oron. But yeah, Twin Spica was wonderful. I loved Twin Spica. The last one made me cry. I wish it was turned into an anime, honestly. What else was I into? I think that's it. There wasn't a lot that I was like really heavily into in middle school. I might remember something later, but for now I think that covers all the bases. We'll jump into high school. Oh man, what can I say? I was still into anime and stuff then. You probably tell I don't really watch anime much anymore. I watch it on the rare occasion, but not as much as I used to. I consumed a lot of manga and also anime. I was like just a little gremlin, just constantly sifting for anime. What are some notable things? Oh, so when I was 13, I'd gotten into horror for the first time. because a friend of mine had shown me some horror movies, like some intro horror films to get me into horror. And at that point, I was very heavily into horror-related things. So that's where my horror really, like, love of horror truly began, was late middle school, early high school. Man, I'm really trying to rack my brain, because I can remember all the stuff that's more recent, but it's so hard to, like, think of those things that I was really hyperfixated on in high school, because, like, high school was rough, man, jeez. I got heavily into theater at that point. I don't think I've ever told you guys, but I did theater for 2.5 years. I started my midway through my sophomore year, ended my senior year. So I did 2 full years of theater, partially a year of theater. That's why I say 2.5. So I guess I got really into musicals, which were not just specific musicals. I was just into the entirety of musicals as a whole, and doing shows and stuff. I was very into, like, Dear Evan Hansen, Heathers, Wicked, though I don't care much for Wicked nowadays. Hamilton. I regret getting into Hamilton every single day of my life. I do not like Lin-Manuel Miranda or Hamilton. Mark my words, I do not endorse that show. It is not good. Why are we romanticizing the founding fathers? That, doesn't, Oh, I almost forgot Be More Chill. I really liked Be More Chill. I could sing Michael in the bathroom from, like, memory after a certain point. I also tried really hard to get my voice deeper because I was identifying as a trans man at that time, and also because, like, I just wanted my voice to go deeper. Boy, 16-year-old me would love me now. I can sing deeper notes now. Ha! Eat it, younger me. No, but right. Spring Awakening. But Spring Awakening's more towards college. I put a pin in Spring Awakening for now, but that was one of the musicals I was into. I think it covers all the bases in terms of musicals I was really heavily into when I was younger, in theater and such. But I was really into them, and yeah, it was theater as a whole was just a massive hyperfixation. I loved everything to do with it. I loved doing tech work. I loved being on the stage, which is very funny coming from me, who is the most anxiety-ridden person alive. But I guess it was because I couldn't see people in the house, so I just kind of went and did my thing. I had a lead role in a production once, which is my crowning achievement of my time as a theater kid. And also I ran a show once. I'll talk about that in a second. But I was a lead in a show called Anatomy of Grey. I played a 16-year-old girl. I had to wear a wig because my hair was really short then, and I wore my hair in the wig in pigtails, and people did not recognize me because they weren't used to seeing me with longer hair, and also in a dress because they were used to seeing me in, like, flannels and jeans and a beanie. But yeah, I played a young girl named June Muldoon, and I was 15 going on 16 in March. Happy birthday, June. But the production was about a doctor who falls from the sky from a hot air balloon and comes and saves my life because I fell into the river because I was a doofus and I was pointing out the hot air balloon and I didn't know what it was. And I fall madly in love with him, and I imagine my life with him, and, like, even though he's like 30, he's like 30 and I'm fine. Fun fact also, I was 18 when I got cast in that role, and the person who played my mom was cast, She was 16 when she was casted, so I was older than the person who played my mom. But nobody seemed to notice or care, especially not the director. But it was a fun show. A lot of people thought I had a monologue where I was really angry, and I would storm off the stage, like stomp off the stage, pissed, and people genuinely thought I was mad because I did it so well. They were convinced I was just pissed with the production or like pissed off at something, and they would ask me like, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you all right?" Like, and I was like, "Yeah, why?" And they were like, oh, "Because you're so mad. Like, you made the stage rumble with how hard you were stomping." I was like, "Oh no, I'm fine." It's like acting. It was very funny. Also, one thing that my director did for me, my director did to get me into character more that made me really upset was I had to show genuine, like, sadness in a monologue where I had, like, 3 or 4 different monologues, where I was talking about my dad because my character's dad died in a tractor accident. He got run over by farming equipment and was torn to pieces. And it was genuinely, like, upsetting. And I wasn't hitting the right emotional cues. And what the director did was she told me, imagine it's your dad, like your actual dad, getting chopped up to bits by farming equipment. Imagine what it would be like seeing him in an open casket, and what it would be like to go to his funeral and putting him in the ground. Imagine that. And, yeah, that wasn't fun to imagine every single time I went up on stage, because I would see it in my head, because I have a very vivid imagination. I will see things that are described to me. So, every single time I did the dialogue, whether it be in during rehearsals or when I was genuinely acting it out, I would see my dad torn to pieces from farming equipment, and I had genuine tears in my eyes. Thankfully, I never, like, shed any tears on stage, or else my makeup would run, but, yeah, no, I saw my dad. It sucked a lot, and I never forgave my director for doing that to me, because, like, good lord. I get it. It was to get me to hit the emotional cues, but it still was not nice. It's not a nice thing at all to do to me. What else was I... Oh, I was going to talk about the show that I also helped run. So I was a stage manager for another production we did called Leading Ladies, which was actually one of my favorite productions that we ever did. So that production, I just randomly asked if I could be the stage manager, and mind you, I had never teched for a show before at that point, and in order for you to get a position like that, you have had to have done a bunch of shows. Like a bunch of shows. Like 4 or 5 shows you had to tech for before you could get handed the position of stage manager. I got it in one go. The director just handed it to me. She was like, "Yeah, sure. Go ahead. You're the stage manager now." I'd never run a production before in my entire life, let alone teched before. I'd been in one show. 2 shows at that point. Acted in them. I had a co-stage manager, but eventually the stage managing position fell solely on my shoulders because they eventually backed out. And it was very hard running that show, but it was still very worth it. I got to help direct some rehearsals. That was very fun, actually. I got a taste of what it was like directing people. But I was in charge of making sure everything ran smoothly. I was in charge of the actors, in charge of the technicians. I was in charge of everything, including cues. When curtains would get called, when certain light cues were. I was in charge of everything, and it was a lot for little tiny 16-year-old me, but surprisingly, it went so incredibly smoothly. Except for the first night. The first night was a nightmare because we have these headsets that we use, and we call them comms. We had a lot of comms back and forth, and I couldn't actually like understand anybody because like they were talking on top of each other. And mind you, I'm hard of hearing, so that just did not help at all. And people got mad at me because I told the director like I couldn't hear anybody because they were talking over one another. But like I can't hear you. Don't talk over one another, please. Like I beg of you. But that first night things were a little funky. There were a lot of costume changes for that show because the characters were wearing drag a lot of the time, and they had to go back and forth between putting on wigs and, you know, not wearing wigs and dresses. Some of them had to wear bras. That was an experience. We had to teach boys how to put on bras. It was actually kind of, it was interesting. People stinky, you know, some classic ableism. But, yeah, no, we had a porcelain phone, like a porcelain dial phone. You know those old phones where you had to, like, put your finger in the dial and then hit the number that you were supposed to? We had one of those. It was a genuine porcelain dial phone, and it fell and shattered before the first night, and we had to replace it really quickly. That was nightmarish. There were malfunctions behind the curtains with the costume changes because one of the actors was running around because he couldn't clip his bra, and he was just running around half naked, just trying to ask for help clipping on his bra and getting everything together. It was so bizarre, but after that point it ran smoothly. Everything worked out well. It was very fun. It was very fun. Chaotic, but fun. That was the only production I ever ran. I did do some, like, assistant backstage work occasionally. I'd help tech, even though I was an actor. But yeah. In any case, that was one of the hyperfixations that I had, which was theater. But I won't talk any more about it now because I have a lot of unpleasant memories of theater. What else was I into in high school? It's really hard. High school's a blur for me. I don't really remember a lot of high school, so I think I'm gonna transition into college. So, I hit college when I was 18, I was class of 2018 in my high school, and I graduated, and my life was kind of in the shit at that point. I was just in a really bad place because of things that I won't talk about because they're personal and also traumatic for people, so I won't bring it up. But I had a hyperfixation on Friends, the television sitcom Friends, and because I was at a low point and I just said fuck it one day and put it on when it was on Netflix, and I binged all 10 seasons of it. And then I did a rewatch of it. I almost got to the 10th season. I got about season 5 and then I quit. But it was a comfort show for me. At that time, it meant a lot to me, although I definitely see there's a lot of issue with it. Mostly because they didn't diversify their cast a lot. It's just a lot of white actors. There's also the issue with the fact that Chandler's mom, as she should be referred to, was constantly ridiculed, and there was a lot of transphobia surrounding her because they would refer to her the wrong way, the wrong form of being referred to as a parent. but like I think there was a statement issued by Marta Kaufman, who is the co-creator of Friends, apologizing for the transphobia towards Chandler's mom, and how she wanted to, if she could take it back, but I don't. That's not for me to like accept at all, because that's directly issued toward trans women. So I just wanted to at least say that she apologized for it. I don't know if it was a good or bad apology. That's not up to me to decide. But I definitely just hated the immense transphobia that was in it, and also the homophobia. Because there was just a running joke in there that people thought Chandler was gay. And, like, Chandler was just like, I'm not gay. It's like, Chandler's the most bisexual character ever. Along with Phoebe. Phoebe and Chandler are just bisexual by default. So is Joey. He may not appear it, but Joey, deep down, bisexual. But I loved Friends so much. Ross can kick rocks. I fucking hate that guy. What else? Okay. This might be a little bit a controversial opinion. Why on earth is there a 30-minute video of this just one song? Good grief. Sorry. Controversial opinion. Okay. So, a lot of people nowadays hate Ross. But back in the day, people loved him. And also really liked Ross and Rachel as a couple. I still don't understand why, but I digress. And a lot of people were satisfied with the resolution to their whole on and off again relationship, which was they eventually got back together. And I personally do not agree. I think people nowadays disagree as well, and say like Rachel shouldn't have ended up with Ross, and that she should have just gone on to, I think it was Paris. She got offered a job position where she could go to Paris to work on fashion, I think it was. And she denied it. She just got off the plane and decided to go back to Ross, which was dumb choice. But I personally, if she were to end up with anybody, because a lot of people said she should end up alone, and I agree, she deserves some time to herself and her daughter. But personally, if I had to pick someone who she should be with, that she had the most chemistry with, it would have to be Joey. Now hear me out, right? This might not make sense to anybody who has never seen Friends, and I'm so sorry, I'm just talking, but like, I have not talked about Friends in 5 years. Yeah, 5 years, I had to do the math. Not since 2018, so I promise I'll be done here in a second. But, yeah, like, Joey treated Rachel so well. Like, he had a crush on her for so long, and, like, she was his roommate for a brief period of time because Chandler moved out to go be with Monica because they ended up together. And, so, like, Rachel ended up staying at Joey's, and, like, he was just so enamored by her, and then she got pregnant because Ross was an idiot, and, he still loved her despite being pregnant, and even when she was, like, heavily showing, like, the baby bomb, he still took her out on, like, dates, and was like, you're so beautiful, and I'm getting emotional. Fuck. But, like, he loved her so much, even through, like, her worst times, he still, like, loved her, and she loved him, and then it got awkward because Ross made it awkward, which made me mad. But, like, there was, like, a genuine chemistry there. Like, he cared about her a lot. He was just like, yeah, I'll take you out on a date. Like, because so many people find pregnant women unattractive. So to see someone like Joey love someone who is pregnant, like Rachel, like heavily pregnant. I think she was like 6 months at that point. Like, heavily pregnant. still like take her out on dates, call her beautiful, call her sexy. It was just like, oh, my heart, my heart. Plus, they just melded so well. And it just makes me so fucking mad that they weren't in game. The one straight quote unquote couple, I thought I loved so much, and they ruined it. The writers ruined it, and I will never forgive them. Ugh. Anyway, sorry. Oh man. Anyway, moving on from Friends. I also, at the same time I was watching Friends, got deeply into Jeopardy, and I brought it up on my birthday stream, but Jeopardy is a comfort show for me. It's a special interest. I deeply love Jeopardy. I started watching it about 2018, like I said, the same time I was watching Friends. Like, interspersed throughout episodes of me, like, binging Friends, I would watch episodes of Jeopardy, and this was the time when Alex Trebek was still alive. So I fell in love with him as a host and a person, and it's what truly brought me into the show, as well as like the aspect of it where you're answering questions. So I just fell so madly in love with the game show, and it still brings me joy to this day to watch it. And even though it just doesn't have the same spark when it comes to hosts, because I've watched the Celebrity Jeopardy because I can't watch regular Jeopardy because of the Hulu plan that I have. But yeah, Mayim Bialik she seems like a nice lady, but she just doesn't have the same, I guess, like, how do I put it? She doesn't have the same, like, genuine care for people and, like, interest in the contestants that Alex did, because he was genuinely invested in, like, everything they would talk about, and, like, would egg them on to talk more, and would sometimes crack jokes about what the people were talking about. And he was just so kind. I have his autobiography that he wrote, and I read all of it, I think a day or two before he died. And yeah, it was genuinely heartbreaking when I learned that he had died, because he had meant so much to me, as well as like Jeopardy meaning a lot to me as well. And so yeah, it was just like a massive, like, slap in the face when I learned that he died. So, also I learned they named the studio stage after him. They call it the Alex Trebek stage now. That makes me cry a little bit every time I hear it. But yeah, I love Jeopardy to bits and pieces, and I will take every opportunity imaginable to watch it, and I will make every single person I love and care about watch it with me. My girlfriend's next. I'm gonna make her watch Jeopardy with me. I know we're in the middle of watching Breaking Bad, but we're gonna watch Jeopardy together. It's a requirement. I'm kidding. It's not a requirement. If you don't want to watch it, that's fine. But still. In any case. Got really into that. What else was I into at the time? Oh my god, my memories of early college are hazy. I don't remember a lot. But we'll just go into the modern, because I'm still in college, so it just bleeds through. So, more modern hyperfixations that I've had. I reignited my love for reading again, so that hyperfixation is still there. Vampires. I totally forgot about vampires. That one is way, way back in elementary school, and it still persists to this day. When I was about, God, I want to say 8 or 9, I really got obsessed with vampires, and it wasn't because of Twilight. This was independent from Twilight. I just really liked vampires, and I went on 3 separate occasions as a vampire. I did a vampiress, which is what I deem to be a lady vampire. I wore fake fangs and a really poofy dress with a collar and called myself a vampiress. I went as Draculaura from Monster High, which was also one of my biggest loves. Still is one of my biggest loves. I don't know if I could call it a hyperfixation, but I deeply loved Monster High to bits and pieces. So getting to dress up as Draculaura was the best moment of my life. I had the hair, the outfit. I don't know if I had the boots. I don't think I had the boots. But I really wanted the boots. And then I went as Mavis from Hotel Transylvania. The first movie. I have to emphasize the first movie. When it had come out, I saw it in theaters. Best moment of my goddamn life. I went as Mavis because I thought she was cool. And now that I'm older, I recognize I probably had a crush on her. Probably. Which is why I wanted to dress like her so bad. Also probably because I looked a bit like her. Except I don't have black hair or blue eyes. But I digress. But yeah, vampires has just been a fixation of mine over the years, and still is to this day. I have a lot of books and media surrounding vampires. I mean, I have a Monster High doll of Draculaura hanging out. I want to get the newer one. I really, really want to get the newer Monster High dolls so bad. You have no idea. I haven't gotten a single one. I need that Draculaura. I need her. But yeah, I just... Oh, vampires, my beloved. But I also, like, I've done a lot of research into vampires, and I do know that there is like an undertone in a lot of vampire media of like anti-Semitism, because the original Dracula was written to be similar to Jewish people and portrayed in a negative light by Bram Stoker. I fully recognize that, so I just wanted to put that out there and say that I recognize that, and which is why I really don't interact much with Dracula as a whole, because I don't like that at all. I don't agree with, portraying him as this anti-Semitic caricature. It's horrible. So yeah. What else? Marble Hornets was recently reignited as a result of someone streaming the entire series and watching it for the first time. I got into Marble Hornets when I was 13, but it wasn't considered a hyperfixation until now. I love Marble Hornets. I talked about it on my birthday stream, but it was a very a foundational series for me in terms of wanting to create horror and just do something like that. I owe a lot to the creators of Marble Hornets. Troy, Joseph, and Tim all worked really hard to make the series what it is, and I will rewatch it every single opportunity I possibly can, because it's such a good series, and is also the origin of a lot of Slender-based series. But yeah, I didn't consider it a hyperfixation until recently. Although it was a pretty short hyperfixation. It was probably a month or two, maybe 3. 2 months of Marble Hornets hyperfixation. I also, not too long ago, was hyperfixated on 10 Things I Hate About You. I don't know what it was about it, but it's such a good movie, but there's a lot of stuff in it that it's very outdated. Of course, there's the usage of the R slur, which, yikes, good lord. Did not expect an ableist slur in that movie, and it caught me off guard the first time I saw it. There's also a portion of the movie where Kat just flashes her teacher, which is very strange because I'm pretty sure she's 17, and she was also 17 when the actress was when they filmed the movie. Oh. So, yeah. But I love that movie. Despite all of that, I love the movie, but I do recognize that, that the stuff, so some of the stuff in it is, unacceptable. What else? that covers most of the bases, and we'll just go into the most current of hyperfixations, which is Ghost. Who could have guessed it? It was Ghost. And the entire time I have a current hyperfixation on Ghost, and it's been going strong for a month now. I got into them last month in February, and I have not been able to shake it since. And I probably won't for a while. Because I am deeply in love with their music. I mean, for God's sake, I own 2 of their albums. I wish I had the 3rd one. Because I love Impera as well, because I have Meliora and Infestusumum. I don't have Impera. I must have Meliora. Like, nope. I don't have Impera, and I really want it. But it's fine. I'm fine with having at least 2 of them for now. Because those 2 are my top 2 favorite anyway. What can I say about it? This is the first band I have ever found myself deeply adoring, because when it comes to musical artists, I'm very picky about who I listen to, and even then, sometimes I'll only listen to musicians, like one song from a musician, and like that's it. I think the only musicians that I have listened to more than one song from would have to be Amy Winehouse and Churches. I love Amy Winehouse. I've loved her for a long time. I have a biography written about her in my bookshelf that I have not finished. And I also have watched the Amy documentary quite a number of times. And I've listened to all of Back to Black, like, a lot. The only song I don't listen to off of Back to Black is Rehab, just out of respect to Amy Winehouse, because she hated that song after a certain point, to the point where she just refused to even perform it during the live shows because of how much pain it brought her, to remind her of her unwillingness to want to go to rehab at the time. So I just refused to listen to it out of respect for Amy Winehouse. Churches, I only had recently started listening to them. I only have listened to Screen Violence, which is their most recent album. But, like, it's just because I like the songs. But when it comes to Ghost, specifically, for some odd reason, I grew so attached to that band. I've grown so attached to them to the point where I want to go to a concert. I've never said that in my entire life, but I want to go to a concert. Or as a ritual, as they're called. I want to go so bad. But I can't. Because the tickets are so fucking expensive. And also we're in a pandemic still, so obviously I'm not gonna go to a concert anytime soon. Whilst we're still in a pandemic. But, oh my god. I could talk about them forever. I could explain the lore of the band, right here and right now. But I won't. Because we will be here for another 3 hours. But, I mean, good lord, I changed up my character's design. Because I love them so much. My character, my little dude, is wearing a Ghost shirt, for Pete's sake. I have a Ghost shirt now. It has the Meliora album cover on the front of it. Because I love it so much. I also, because of how much I was hyperfixated on them, made a Tumblr blog. Because I thought, oh, this is just gonna, like, be a little side thing I do. I'm fully invested in the fandom now. Listen, I don't get into fandom stuff often because talking to people is hard. And also, some people can be very strange. But the people in the Ghost fandom have been nothing but kind. Every person that I've met, and I've only talked to at least, like, one person, but the people that I have met, that I've interacted with, have been so kind. They're such sweet people. There's, like, okay, I started writing for that fandom, like, posting fanfiction and stuff, because, like, why not? I thought I could go into it drawing, doing art and stuff, but, that wasn't really working out, so I was just like, okay, let me try and post some writings in that like kicked off everything. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm a writer for this fandom. But I started posting my writings, and like people that I looked up to when I was first starting out in the fandom, that I still look up to, have started like reblogging and liking my work and posting such positive things. And it blows my mind every single time without fail. I am mutuals with at least 5 of these people. Before stream started as well, I posted a thing that I need to answer. Actually, I feel so bad I've left this person hanging for 2 hours. I posted a thing where I was like, hey, I just want to talk with you guys. Send me some asks. And I got at least 1 person in my ask box. But like, I didn't expect any attention. That's the thing. I didn't expect any attention from anyone in that fandom, and it's just like, I'm sorry. It just makes me so happy that people enjoy what I put out in this fandom, and also that the people are so kind and like don't cause issues with one another. There's no drama. There's none, unless you like interact with younger people, but the majority of people who are in the Ghost fandom are like in their late 20s to early 30s. The oldest person that I saw was in their 40s. So everyone there is older. So it's not like I'm surrounded by teenagers. I'm surrounded by people within my age range. It's such a contrast because I've been in fandoms with teenagers. It's just, it's like night and day. It really is. Because there's... Okay, so... In a previous fandom I was in, the way people would handle something was they would constantly talk about it, even though you really shouldn't. You should just kind of, like, block the person and go, but you would just... They see people constantly, like, quote retweeting the person and bringing more attention to the thing that you shouldn't be bringing attention to, right? And then in this fandom, in the Ghost fandom, there's a person who, this is a specific situation I'm bringing up. That one was just a general thing because it happened so constantly. In this instance, there's a person in the Ghost fandom who has constantly been trying to make a bunch of lies up about the actual lead singer of Ghost, whose name is Tobias Forge. He plays a bunch of characters that are called Papas, but like the guy's name is Tobias Forge. And they have been making up lies about him that are slanderous, and like they've been proven to be false. This isn't a situation where it's like, you know, like, how am I trying to put this? This isn't a situation where it's like there's a bunch of information getting put out and it seems, and like it's credible to a degree. All of it is fake. And it has been proven so. Numerous times. And the person just keeps persisting, and it's been an issue for like years, I think. And there have been posts about this person, and every single post that brings up this person is like bulleted, and they bring up the points of this, what this person does, what their motif is, what their usernames are, what their icons look like, and like they say at the end, don't interact with this person, don't bring attention to this person, it only feeds in to the lies that they are spreading, don't give this person any more attention, just block them. Which is very refreshing, I guess, instead of just seeing people constantly bring this person up and try to, like, quote retweet them with their own opinion about whatever this person is saying. It's just, like, block them and move on. And I'm just like, oh my god. It's just interesting. Plus that person also was really fucking awful. Just outside of, like, making slanderous lies about a person they don't know, they also just made their icon, who they kept persistently saying was Tobias Forge as a child, it's just not. It's a picture of a Holocaust victim, which is incredibly disgusting, and a lot of posts do point that out and say, hey, this child that's in this person's icon is not Tobias, it is a Holocaust victim. Do not interact with this person. That is horrible. It is awful that they even thought to do this. So, yeah, so it's just... So it really is just night and day. But everyone in the fandom is really talented. The writers are fantastic. The artists are amazing. Oh my god. Blows my mind every single time I see an artist in the Ghost fandom, because holy fucking shit. This is like shit you would see in the MoMA. There's such amazing artists. I'm like, oh my god. And some of those people have liked my works. It blows my fucking mind. But yeah, everyone has been so kind, so caring, and wonderful. I love Ghost with every fiber of my being. Their music has meant a lot to me in these times where I've been really stressed out. And also at the same time that I got this Ghost hyperfixation, I accidentally reignited my religious hyperfixation, which it's the opposite. I'm instead of like angels and stuff, it's like Satan. So it's it's something. But yeah, I love Ghost with every fiber of my being. And you know what? Let me show you guys really quickly a meme that I made with help from my girlfriend, because my girlfriend found the image that I needed for the meme. Because I was like, what's that one image? And then she found it for me, and I made a meme out of it. It's the Marge Simpson meme where it's like, I just think they're neat. And then I made this meme where I put in a few of them. I love every single one of the papas, but these are the ones that I like focus on the most. I forgot to put Primo in there. So the one, okay, I'm gonna point out which ones are which for those of you who are not aware of the papas. So the one that's on the far left, that's Terzo. He's the third papa. The one on the top is Copia. He's the current and fourth papa. And then the one on the right there, the far right there, there's two people there, but the one in the skull face paint is Papa Nil. He's the original papa. And the one lady off to his left, our right, is Sister Imperator, who was briefly with him, and then he cheated on her with 3 different women, and then she left him. And now she just runs the church that the papas are in. So, I just think they're neat. I think they're neat. The lore is so intriguing. I could go on forever about it, but all you need to know is they're the anti-popes, and they worship Satan, and they're Italian, despite the band being from Sweden. And also their music is so fucking good. Also, wait, actually, before... Hold on. I need to show you guys 2 images really quickly. I'm collecting images. So this first image... Do I have it saved? I do. This first image comes from the official Ghost Twitter. This is a real tweet, I promise. This isn't a joke tweet. The official Ghost Twitter accidentally tweeted out Gonst, then deleted it. It's my favorite fucking thing ever. And then you know what this other image I have? I was looking at the birthday VOD and seeing if I got copyright claimed or not, because I played an acoustic cover of a Ghost song, and it did get claimed, but this is how the content ID identified the band. Mind you, the band is called Ghost. They put Gotst. So now I'm collecting badly misspelled, misspelled words, misspellings of Ghost. I'm collecting those now because it just keeps happening. It's my favorite thing ever. Gonst and Guts. Like YouTube. You know, that's not how you spell ghost. I don't know if that was a human reviewer or not who put that in, but that's so fucking funny. I'm thinking, oh my god. Oh. Anyway, I think we're gonna wrap it up here, guys. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble about former and current hyperfixations. It's always fun to talk about these things, and just openly talk about things that you enjoy and adore. I want to make it so that other neurodivergent people like myself can just freely talk about these things without getting a bunch of people making comments like, this is cringe, or you're cringe for liking this, or da 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 da, because, like, it's not cringe. We love what we love, and if it's not harming anyone, then why bother saying anything whatsoever? You know? Let us enjoy shit, alright? we need to remove cringe from people's vocabularies when it comes to referring to the interests of neurodivergent people. The only time you should be using cringe is when you talk about scrunching your face up in disgust, or talking about things that are actually cringe, like people being bigots. So, yes, thank you so much for coming out to stream tonight. I really appreciate it. I don't typically ramble about these types of things because I get self-conscious because of these stigmas, but I just really want to, like, put it out there that it is okay to talk about your hyperfixations. It is okay to talk about the things that you enjoy. It is okay to love things so long as they aren't hurting people, alright? So yeah, thank you so much for coming out. Make sure you go get something to eat if you haven't eaten yet. Make sure you get something to drink if you haven't drank anything yet. Make sure you go do your homework if you haven't started it yet, or a project, or a test, or what have you. It's better to do it late than never, as I always say. Make sure to go brush your teeth, brush your hair, take a shower, pet your pets, do what you need to do to take care of yourselves. Just know that I love you, and I care about you, and there are people in your life that love and care about you as well. And for those of you who are watching the VOD, comment down below what your current or past hyperfixations are. You don't have to list them all. Just list a few of your favorites, or ones that are most memorable to you. Let's just have a conversation about this, because I think it's fun. Tell me about them. I want to hear all about them. Alright, I'll see you guys next week. Maybe next week I'll figure something out. Maybe we'll watch the series. Maybe we'll have another little sit-down chat like this. We'll see. But I'll see you guys later. Bye! Love you guys. Bye! Have a good evening, alright? Bye! Bye, 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 bye. Take care of yourselves. I love you. Bye! Bye! Goodbye! Bye! Take care, everyone.